The summer sun beat down mercilessly on the small cemetery at the edge of Redemption, Texas, turning the dry grass golden and making the air shimmer above the weathered headstones. Jack Morrison had taken the shortcut through the graveyard on his way back to the ranch, his boots crunching on the gravel path, when he heard it, a sound that made him stop dead in his tracks. It was the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep inside, the kind that shook a person's whole body. He found her kneeling beside a fresh grave, her small frame hunched over, dark hair falling across her face. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old, wearing a faded blue dress that had seen better days. The headstone was simple, barely a week old by the look of it. Sarah Chin, beloved mother, 1985 to 2024. Jack approached slowly, removing his hat out of respect. "Hey there, little one," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. The girl looked up, her face streaked with tears and dirt. Her eyes were red-rimmed and swollen, suggesting she'd been crying for quite some time. "Go away," she whispered, her voice hoarse. But Jack didn't go away. Instead, he lowered himself to sit on the ground beside her, his old knees protesting slightly. He'd spent 43 years on this earth, the last 25 of them working ranches across Texas, and he'd learned that sometimes people needed company in their grief, even if they said otherwise. "My name's Jack," he said, looking at the headstone. "I'm sorry about your mama." The girl was quiet for a long moment, then fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "They're going to take me away tomorrow," she said. "To a foster home in Dallas. I don't want to leave her. I don't want to leave my mama alone here." Jack felt something twist in his chest. He'd lost his own mother when he was 17, and he remembered that feeling, that irrational but powerful sense that leaving her grave somehow meant abandoning her. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she said quietly. "Lily Chin." "Well, Lily, your mama isn't really here, you know. She's not in that ground. She's wherever you carry her, in your heart, in your memories. You could be in Dallas or on the moon, and she'd still be with you." Lily looked at him with those enormous, grief-stricken eyes. "That's what everyone says. But it doesn't help." Jack nodded slowly. "You're right. Sometimes words don't help much at all." He paused, thinking. "Tell me about her. What was she like?" And so Lily talked. She told him how her mother had worked 2 jobs to support them after Lily's father left when she was just a baby. How Sarah had never missed a school play or parent-teacher conference, no matter how tired she was. How she made the best dumplings and told the funniest stories. How she'd gotten sick 6 months ago, and how quickly the cancer had taken her. Jack listened, really listened, asking questions and letting Lily pour out her heart there beside that grave. The sun moved across the sky, and still they sat. He learned that Lily had no other family. Her father was gone, her mother had been an only child, and her grandparents had passed years ago. Social services had been kind but efficient, finding her a foster placement in the city. "I don't want to go to strangers," Lily said, her voice small. "Mama always said home was wherever we were together. Now I don't have a home at all." Something in Jack's heart shifted in that moment, like a key turning in a lock he hadn't known was there. He thought about his own life, the small ranch he'd recently inherited from an uncle, the 3-bedroom house that echoed with emptiness, the way he'd been drifting through his days since he'd settled there 6 months ago. He thought about the spare bedrooms gathering dust, the kitchen where he ate alone, the silence that sometimes felt like it might swallow him whole. "What if you didn't have to go to strangers?" he heard himself say. Lily looked at him with confusion and the faint spark of hope. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've got a ranch just outside town. It's not much, but it's got good land, some horses, a couple of barn cats that could use a friend. There's a school in Redemption, a real good one. And I've got space. Lots of space." "You mean?" Lily's eyes widened. "You'd want me?" Jack felt tears prick his own eyes then, something that hadn't happened in years. "Sweetheart, I think maybe we might need each other. If you'd be willing to take a chance on an old cowboy who doesn't know the first thing about raising a little girl but is willing to learn." The next day, Jack walked into the Office of Child Protective Services with Lily's small hand tucked in his. What followed were weeks of paperwork, home visits, background checks, and interviews. The social worker, a sharp-eyed woman named Teresa Gonzalez, was thorough and initially skeptical. A single man with no prior experience with children wanting to foster a grieving little girl he just met? It raised red flags. But Teresa was also good at her job, which meant she looked beyond the surface. She visited Jack's ranch and saw the care he'd already taken. The bedroom he'd painted a soft lavender because Lily had mentioned it was her favorite color, the way he child-proofed the house, the stack of parenting books on his nightstand. She interviewed Jack's references and heard about his character, his reliability, his gentle nature with animals and people alike. She talked to Lily, too, in private sessions where the girl's face lit up whenever she spoke about Jack, about how he'd visited her every day in the temporary placement, bringing her small gifts, a smooth stone from the creek on his property, a drawing one of the ranch horses seemed to have made by stepping in paint, a book about a girl who loved horses. Most importantly, Teresa saw something that couldn't be faked, genuine love growing between a lonely man and a lonely child, two souls who had found each other at exactly the right moment. The town of Redemption, however, had opinions. And in a small town, opinions spread faster than wildfire in August. At the diner, at the feed store, at church on Sunday, people talked. Some were supportive. Jack had always been known as a decent man, quiet but kind. Others were suspicious. What did they really know about him? Wasn't it strange, a bachelor taking in a young girl? Some whispered that it wasn't proper, that a child needed a mother, not just some cowboy who probably couldn't even braid hair. Martha Henderson, who taught third grade for 40 years and considered herself the moral compass of redemption, was particularly vocal. "That poor child needs a proper family," she declared at the church social. "2 parents, a stable home. Not some ranch hand living alone in the middle of nowhere." But others defended Jack. Rose Martinez, who ran the general store and had known Jack for years, spoke up firmly. "That man has more integrity in his little finger than most people have in their whole body. Maybe we should focus less on judging and more on supporting what's best for that little girl." Through it all, Jack ignored the gossip and focused on Lily. He learned to cook meals beyond beans and toast. He figured out how to do pigtails, though his first attempts were comically lopsided, making Lily laugh for the first time since her mother died. He attended parenting classes and read everything he could about trauma and grief in children. 3 months after that day in the cemetery, the judge approved Jack's foster placement. 6 months later, when Lily whispered that she wished she could stay with him forever, Jack began the adoption process. The transformation in both of them was remarkable. Lily, who had been a shadow of herself, began to bloom again. She still had hard days, times when grief overwhelmed her, but now she had someone to hold her through them. She joined the local 4-H club and showed a natural talent with horses. Her teachers reported that she was bright and engaged, making friends and catching up on the schoolwork she'd missed during her mother's illness. Jack, too, changed. The loneliness that had dogged him for years lifted. He found purpose in the daily routines of fatherhood, packing school lunches, helping with homework, teaching Lily to ride, tucking her in at night. The house that had felt so empty now rang with laughter and life. One evening, about a year after they'd met, Jack and Lily sat on the porch of the ranch house, watching the sun set over the hills. Lily was quiet, and Jack had learned to recognize her thoughtful silences. "Jack?" she said finally. "Yeah, sweetheart? Do you think Mama would be happy that I'm here with you?" Jack put his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "I think your Mama loved you more than anything in this world. And I think she'd be grateful that you're safe and cared for and happy. I think she'd want exactly what we have here." Lily nodded, leaning into him. "I still miss her every day." "I know you do. And that's okay. You'll always miss her, and you should. But you know what I think? I think somehow, that day in the cemetery, she guided me to you. Because she knew you'd need someone, and maybe she knew I needed someone too. Do you really think so?" "I really do." The town eventually came around, as towns do. They saw Jack at every school event, cheering louder than anyone when Lily competed in her first horse show. They saw how he'd rush to her side when she fell and scraped her knee, how he'd beam with pride at her art displayed in the library, how he transformed from a solitary cowboy into a devoted father. Martha Henderson herself, the former critic, became one of Lily's biggest champions. After Lily helped care for Martha's sick cat with remarkable gentleness and maturity, the older woman publicly apologized to Jack for her initial judgment. "Sometimes," she admitted, "family isn't about blood or convention. It's about love and commitment. You've shown this town what that really means." 2 years after that first meeting in the cemetery, on a bright Saturday morning, Jack and Lily stood before a judge again. This time, the papers said, "Adoption Decree," across the top. When the judge pronounced them legally father and daughter, the courtroom erupted in applause. Teresa Gonzalez was there, wiping tears from her eyes. Rose Martinez had closed the store to attend. Even Martha Henderson had shown up, bringing homemade cookies for the celebration afterward. That afternoon, they visited Sarah Chen's grave together, as they did every month. Lily placed fresh flowers on the headstone, and this time her tears were mixed with smiles. "Mama," she said softly, "this is my dad. Jack Morrison. I think you'd really like him. He takes good care of me. He makes terrible dumplings, not like yours, but he tries so hard that I don't have the heart to tell him." She laughed a little, and Jack squeezed her hand. "I miss you so much. But I'm okay now. I'm more than okay. I'm home." Jack knelt beside her, adding his own silent thanks to the woman he'd never met but owed everything to. Because she'd raised an extraordinary daughter, and because somehow, in her final gift of love, she'd brought him to that cemetery on that sweltering summer day. As they walked back to the truck, Lily slipped her hand into Jack's. "Dad?" she said, testing out the word she'd finally felt comfortable using. "Yes, daughter," he replied, the word feeling perfect on his tongue. "Thank you for not walking away that day." Jack stopped, turning to look at her, this brave, beautiful child who had changed his entire life. "Sweetheart, walking away was never an option. From the moment I saw you there, I knew. Sometimes the best things in life find us when we least expect them. You found me that day just as much as I found you." And as they drove back to the ranch, toward home and the future that stretched before them, the golden Texas sun seemed to shine a little brighter, blessing this family that had been born not from blood, but from a moment of compassion, a leap of faith, and a love that had proven strong enough to shock a town and change 2 lives forever.